talk about pain in children, and today we're going to delve deeper into the complex phenomenon of pain. I'm Annemarie Oberholzer, and I'm really looking forward to this session as it will help you to understand pain so much better. We're going to look at what pain is, and we're going to start with the definition from the International Association for the Study of Pain, and also look at the 6 keynotes that I've used to elaborate on their definition. We're going to consider the concept of no pain, as that's a good thing, right? Well, not necessarily. Wait and see. And lastly, we will discuss different kinds of pain. So first of all, how does the International Association for the Study of Pain define pain? They describe it as an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with or resembling that associated with actual or potential tissue damage. We've looked at the link between pain as a sensory and an emotional experience in the previous episode. In the next episode, we will discuss emotional pain in more detail. So now, let's try something. Pinch your earlobe and we experience some pain. Have you tried it? If you've pinched hard enough, it would have been pretty painful, wasn't it? Yet your ear is still fine. Well, hopefully you haven't pinched it so hard that you've caused any damage, but that's just the point. You've experienced pain when there was just the potential of tissue damage and not yet actual damage. So according to this definition, pain is legit whether there is actual tissue damage or not. Let's look at the 6 keynotes the International Association for the Study of Pain used to elaborate on their definition. Number 1 states that pain is always a personal experience that is influenced to varying degrees by social, psychological, as well as biological factors. The key word is influence, as it is important to understand that not everyone experiences pain in the same way. Pain and nociception are different phenomena. Pain cannot be inferred solely from activity in sensory neurons. In the previous episode, we've looked at the pain pathway or nociception, but also explained that it's not a process that's set in stone, and that there are different ways that the pain impulse can be changed along the way. For instance, if you experience a stressful situation, your brain will kick into protection mode, as your body's most important job is to survive and to stay alive. So in order for your brain to know how to respond and to be able to assess the situation, your brain needs more information. So it increases all incoming impulses, making it stronger and therefore more painful. And it can do that through the secretion of certain neurotransmitters, for instance substance P. It also increases activity in the areas of the brain processing pain, so that your brain can be more alert to pain messages. And this is called pain modulation. Your brain is doing all of this in order to be able to take an informed decision on what to do next. The problem is some impulses that are not necessarily painful can actually be registered as pain. For instance, we often see this in children before medical procedure, before any pain should be present. If you have to do a procedure on an anxious child, they will start to display signs of pain, crying, screaming even, when, for instance, a tourniquet is applied around the arm. And this is not an attempt to manipulate the healthcare professional, but because they really experience pain from the tourniquet as a result of an over-anxious brain, and if the situation is too stressful for them. Let me stress this again. This is real pain, and the experience is no different than it would have been if there was a significant tissue damage present. Now let's look what will happen with a relaxed brain or a distracted brain. The brain no longer feels the need to be on the lookout for potential danger and no need to get so much information from the environment. So it decreases all impulses, including potential painful ones. There's less activity in the area processing pain, and the brain is actually saying, "Leave me alone, I'm enjoying myself." This is what happened with an 84-year-old war veteran. He was shot at during World War II, but he assumed that the bullet went in and came out, and he was just so relieved that he was alive and seemingly well that he never bothered to have the bullet wound in his neck checked out. Now, 60 years later, it was discovered that the bullet was still lodged in his neck, but he never experienced any pain from it. So again, tissue damage is not equal to the pain experience. The third keynote is that individuals learn the concept of pain. Pain and the response to it is greatly influenced by the culture in which we grew up, and therefore important to keep in mind, especially in a multicultural environment. For this reason, Urquia and Albertine concluded that healthcare providers need to be increasingly aware of and sensitive to the cultural expression of pain and how differences in the communication of pain could possibly influence their care plan. The fourth keynote, a person's report of an experience as pain should be respected. Maybe it's a good time now to be reminded of McCaffrey's definition of pain, that pain is whatever the experiencing person says it is, existing whenever the experiencing person says it does. In 1995, the British Medical Journal published an incident where a builder jumped down from a height right into a 15-centimeter nail that went right through his boot. He was in severe pain and had to be sedated before they could pull out the nail. When they removed his boot, they realized that the nail penetrated between the toes, and his foot was not injured at all. Yet he had severe pain, and he experienced it as very real pain. The fifth keynote reminds us that although pain usually serves an adaptive role, it urges the body to adapt by resting a limb, in other words, pain as a function, it may have adverse effects on function, what the person is able to do, as well as social and psychological well-being. And we've mentioned a whole list of pain consequences in children in the first episode of this series. Make sure you check it out. And lastly, our sixth keynote. Verbal description is only one of several behaviors to express pain. The inability to communicate does not mean that a person, or even an animal for that matter, does not experience pain. So for this reason, the International Association for the Study of Pain revised the initial definition of 1979, and now in 2020, they took out the part that described in terms of such damage, as not everyone is able to describe their pain. So I want you to stop the video for a moment and just think about a time when you experienced pain. What can you remember about the situation? Can you remember what you saw, smelled, heard? What emotions did you experience? And how much pain did you experience on a scale from 1 to 10? Jen and Williams suggest that there are 3 components to pain memory. The pain event memory, that's the circumstances of the pain experience. Because the event is usually accompanied by intense emotions, it's very likely that it will be stored in the long-term memory with a lot of detail. The pain experience memory refers to the sensory, affective, and intensity qualities of the pain. So someone will be able to describe the experience in detail and with great accuracy. These 2 components are similar in social pain as well as in physical pain. However, there is a difference in the sensory re-experience of pain. This refers to the ability to re-experience or relive the pain, something that is possible with social pain. Someone can experience the pain of rejection all over again and even start to cry with the intensity of the feelings, but it's not the same with acute physical pain. However, these authors didn't consider chronic pain, and chronic pain might just be a way in which the body re-experienced pain that happened a long time ago. That's just something to think about. Before we carry on, let's have a look at what would have happened if we don't have to experience pain. We often think that it would be so great if we can just turn off our ability to feel pain. However, this is exactly what Brand and Yancey wrote about in the book The Gift of Pain. Dr. Brand worked with people diagnosed with leprosy, a condition where people start to lose the ability to feel pain. So these patients would become blind because they don't have the urge to blink anymore. Or they rub their eyes with calloused hands, scratching the corneas and not aware of it. They tend to walk on foot sores or putting too much pressure on their hands, causing damage and even losing a limb because of it. And that is why we say that pain is the alarm system of the body. Dr. Brand and his team did a lot of research on pain in this population. For instance, they created gloves that were linked to a buzzer to alert a patient when putting too much pressure on their hands in the workshop where they worked. But that did not help. Then they changed it to bright lights, again with no effect. It was only when they started to give the patient an electric shock in an area on their body that could still feel pain that the person would not stop doing, that they actually would stop doing what they were doing to protect their body. So, Dr. Brand concluded that pain must be unpleasant to cause alarm. However, they made an interesting discovery, and they wrote in their book, the patients tended to see the electric shock as punishment for breaking rules, not as a message from an endangered body part. And therefore, the patients responded with resentment, not an instinct of self-preservation, because the artificial system of the gloves had no innate link to their sense of self. I also mentioned that when a patient with leprosy hurt himself and he started to bleed, he stormed out of the workshop where he was working. And when Dr. Brand asked him if it hurts, he replied, "You know, it doesn't hurt me. I'm suffering in my mind because I can't suffer in my body." Even though a patient can feel physical pain, or can't feel physical pain, they can still feel emotional pain. So let's look at some definitions of pain. When we do an activity, such as stretching a muscle, or when we experience a stimulus such as the heat of a hot pad against our hand, there is the potential of causing tissue damage when the activity or stimulus becomes too strong. However, long before tissue damage occurs, our bodies will warn us by creating pain. Let's call this the area of warning pain. The moment when the stimulus starts to feel uncomfortable, in other words, the least intensity when we start to experience pain. This is called the pain threshold. When we get to the point where we decide, that's it, no more, I've had enough, that is called pain tolerance. In other words, the maximum intensity a person is willing to accept. As you can see, this area of warning pain usually happens long before there is any tissue damage. You will stop with your stretching before you hurt yourself, or pull away your hand from the hot pad before you get burns. However, sometimes the area of warning pain increases. This happens when our nervous system becomes overprotective and the tissues become more sensitive to pain. Therefore, the pain threshold decreases and we start to feel pain and discomfort at a much earlier stage. This increased response to a pain stimulus is called hyperalgesia. Sometimes we get what is called allodynia. That is when any kind of stimulus can provoke pain, and even a feather-like touch can cause pain and agony. However, the opposite is also true. People can experience an increase in pain threshold and pain tolerance, and therefore a decreased response to a pain stimulus. This is called hypoalgesia. Now, the problem with hyperalgesia is that the area of warning pain is very small and can even overlap with tissue damage. So this person won't get a lot of warning and will be more prone to injury. So we are now going to discuss the difference between acute pain and chronic pain. So when you hurt yourself, when you, for instance, jump back to avoid landing in front of an oncoming bus, you will most probably experience acute pain. As mentioned earlier, acute pain is the alarm system of the body and will ensure that you take the necessary steps to protect your body, such as going to the doctor, rest and take it easy, or stop any activities that can cause further damage. Acute pain can also be compared with the dashboard of a car. When something is wrong with a car, a warning light will come on to ensure that you will take the necessary steps to avoid damage to the car or being stranded in the car. If you get the warning of an empty fuel tank, you will be able to drive to the nearest petrol station and fill up your car. The problem is then sorted and the warning light will go off. Chronic pain, on the other hand, can be compared with the warning light of an empty fuel tank going off on the dashboard of the car. However, you've been to the petrol station and the fuel tank is full, but there is a problem with the wiring of the car and the warning light does not switch off. Chronic pain can be defined as continuous or recurrent pain lasting for more than 3 months and pain that persists after an injury should have healed. It can be a result of painful disease, it can happen after an injury, or it can be what is called idiopathic, as it is recognized as a disease in itself and not a symptom of another disorder. A research study by Simons and Seberg found that 13 to 15% of children still experience pain up to 5 years after surgery. Remember our previous video where we have referred to the area of warning pain? An important aspect of chronic pain could be that a person starts to experience pain long before there is a chance of actual tissue damage. The most common chronic pain experiences in children are headaches, abdominal pain, musculoskeletal or limb pain, and back pain. This can be caused by stress or a wrong diet, changes in the way the pain is processed in the brain, or it can be that the nervous system learns to make pain. Sometimes chronic pain can happen because the nerve carrying the pain message is pinched or damaged. The pain is still experienced as pain in the tissues, for instance, in the hand, but the actual damage is in the nerves itself, and this is called neuropathic pain. Neuropathic pain is typically described as a burning, pricking, sharp, shooting, tingling, electric shock or pins and needles like pain. Whatever the cause of chronic pain, it is important to remember the pain is always real for the patient. As you can see, chronic pain is a very specialized field and needs specialized professionals to treat it. If you would like to know more about chronic pain, you can go to this website, Tame the Beast. So lastly, let's look at inflammation. This is quite a hot topic today. Research linked chronic inflammation to a variety of disorders, including COVID-19. Chronic inflammation can also lead to chronic pain. I would like to focus now on the role of acute inflammation, as it is part of the body's immune response and important for the healing process of tissue. I wonder how many of you know that exercise causes muscle soreness due to small tears in the muscle that is causing inflammation, and the pain therefore is not due to lactic acid buildup, as was believed for a very long time. The response of the body to damage is to get tougher in the places that are vulnerable, and due to the muscles getting damaged by exercise, they are rebuilt by proteins to become stronger every time you exercise. It is therefore important to explain this to children, that the pain after exercise is to summon healing substances, that's the protein, to build their muscles stronger. And this will help to encourage children to stay fit and not getting discouraged by stiffness after exercise. And they might even start to like that feeling and can encourage them to do more exercises. And that brings us to the end of this episode. Make sure you watch the next video, and we're going to explore fascinating research linking physical pain, emotional pain, and spiritual pain.